from our IT expert over there. He says we are up and live. So this is our Facebook Live work session that is prior to our normal business on April the 20th. This is the April 16th meeting for us to discuss the agenda and items on the agenda, but we also have a presentation. And so we have some gentlemen from Sports Facilities Management who have a PowerPoint, I believe. In fact, there it is right there, who are going to present to the board a proposal for Cornerstone facility and a management of our new park. And so I will turn it over to them, whoever's going to go first, whether it's Jason or Jim. So whoever's up, y'all go right ahead.
Okay, are we sitting the right?
You are as well. Yep, you can be heard and the PowerPoint can be seen. So
Perfect. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you here, and congratulations on the progress that's been made on the park so far. It's going to be an extraordinary park and a real gem for the state and the region as well. So really what we wanted to cover in the brief, in the brief 10 minutes or so that we have here is an introduction to who we are, and then what we're proposing as the Starkville approach or partnership here. Talk about some of the resources that we could bring to the table to make this park as successful as it can be, and then open it up for questions, dialogue, next steps, whatever would be appropriate there. So, is there anything, Mayor or Alderman or staff, anything you want to make sure that we cover?
no, you can just roll right into it. If we got questions, we'll come up with them afterwards.
Please, okay, and please interrupt if you'd like. So, in terms of an introduction to us. I know some of you have seen this before, but this is really our heartbeat and what makes us tick. And it's our mission, and it's not something we just put on letterhead for us. It's something we live out. It's to improve the health and economic vitality of the communities we serve. We believe when these complexes are going right, we know when these complexes are going right with the right programming, that they really impact and improve the health of a community and all the guests who are coming to visit. And when we define health, we look at obviously the physical health, but the mental, the social, the spiritual health that sport, recreation done right can improve and the impact that it can make. The second part of this mission statement is the economic vitality. We said it a few times, but it's worth repeating, is that that qualitative portion of the health of the mission statement you cannot sustain if you're not sustainable financially. If you're not achieving the bottom line results and getting return on the $20 million investment that is being made. So we talk a lot about hitting numbers, we talk a lot about the financials, but know that when we do, and we're about to, it's because we recognize that is part of the fuel that allows for the qualitative component to this. We have a number of examples across the country that we manage, and we have the highest performing financial venues. And that allows us to do things like scholarship, sponsorship, and provide access to kids and families and others that otherwise might not be able to afford such a beautiful asset like this. It also allows for reduced pricing and fee structure for some of the local programming and other things that you want to run in these types of complexes. But this is why we do what we do. And I won't read the whole slide here, but what it demonstrates is that active families create active children that can do better in life. And this is research by the Robert Woods Johnson Foundation, and you can see some of the stats in there. And again, this is why we do what we do. We're blessed to be able to work in this industry and provide this kind of impact through sports, recreation, and competition. A little bit about us in terms of our history. We're founded in 2003. I won't read the slide. You can see through it here, but the bottom bullet here is one that we like to share, and that is that we manage a number of diverse types of assets, whether they're RV parks, amphitheaters, concerts and events, aquatics, convention space, but our sweet spot is indoor, outdoor sports and recreation assets. It's what we do. You just heard why we do it. We believe in that impact and what we do. We're managing 27 different complexes around the country, from 10 years of operating history and experience to projects that are just coming out of the ground right now. We refer to that as the SFM network, and when we define the SFM network, it's not just the physical places and the facilities. In fact, a lot of times, and especially as these venues age, they could be a commodity. The vision isn't the complex itself. The vision is what happens inside the complex and what happens outside that property as a result of spurring economic growth, impact, and seeing families mature, and kids get leadership lessons and character development and create the next generation of leaders as a result of what happens inside of these facilities. But the network itself, they are the complexes. We also have a network of the very best event providers, whether that's baseball or softball, soccer, all the different types of sports that we bring into the complexes that we're blessed to manage. And it's also the people that we bring along. Jim and I are blessed here to represent 1,000 people within our team. And the reality is, they're all much more talented than we are. But we get to be here today, but we have people who come from obviously traditional sport environment, but entertainment, whether that's House of Blues, YMCA background, Marriott, lodging, hospitality, a number of different backgrounds and experiences that allow us to bring kind of a comprehensive perspective to drive the very best performance inside of these complexes. The other thing that comes along with the network are some of the relationships that we have around the industry. This particular slide shows our Aspen Institute involvement, in which we're involved with some of the highest level policymakers in the country, looking to provide more access to sport. As great as sport is, there are challenges right now as more travel sports grow and mature. There are kids and families that are left behind, and so we're trying to find ways for those that are late bloomers, maybe for those that aren't at the ability level yet to compete, or even those that can't afford to play, to get access to parks and assets like what you all are developing here. You can see we manage some of the most successful sports tourism tournament event complexes in the country, indoor, outdoor. And we've got a lot of experience in opening new venues, ground up. So we have process systems and tools, as you would imagine. We're opening, on average, 6 to 8 new complexes every single year. So we have a bit of a roadmap for how you open up and you open successfully. I think I shared with a couple of you that I'm from Iowa originally, which means I love the movie Field of Dreams, but it's not build it and they will come. This is build it and know they're coming, because you're doing everything you need to do the 12 months prior to opening to develop the organization, develop the customer and guest experience and service, develop the marketing, branding, and sales systems, so that when you open up on day 3, you're operating more like a year 3 operation. And that's our goal, that's our objective. So we can share in whatever level of detail you all would like to see the pre-opening timelines and charts and branding exercises and budgets and all of the things that we do to make sure that this complex in Starkville will open up successfully. One thing that's really important to us, no community is alike, and Starkville is certainly unique. There are similarities to other communities that we work with, but it's really important for us to understand what the community's goal here, starting with this group, the leadership at this table. And so we have experience in all different types of operations that we can pull whatever levers we need to make sure that we achieve the goals that you have for your complex. I've been referring to the Hoover Met Complex quite a bit, which Brandon, I think you're going to get to go to next week. They had very specific goals for opening, and it wasn't just bottom line performance, although that was one of them. It was, how do we retain the SEC baseball tournament and provide a great experience for that week-long event, so that the SEC wants to re-up for additional years, which they have for another 6 years since we came on board there. Secondly, how do we spur economic growth in and around the community, but specifically in and around this site, which is happening. New hotels, new restaurants, new mixed use, commercial development is happening in and around the complex, because we're driving $50 million in direct spending into the community as a result of the events that we're bringing. And then lastly, how are you driving the bottom line, but still balancing the local community usage? And that's something that we've been able to manage and balance well, and I would imagine it's something that we'll want to balance well here in Starkville, so that we serve the community very well. So ultimately, these are the types of goals that we're going to go to. These are some of the things that we've heard from Starkville, and certainly it's not an exhaustive list, and we understand that, and we're looking forward to diving into this in a little bit more detail. We talk about the financial results. These are just a few examples of facilities. These aren't brand new construction. These are turnaround or optimization experiences that we have. But for those that aren't used to reading the P&L, that facility one example shows that prior to SFM coming on, it was losing $1.1 million subsidized to that level. 5 years later, we had made a $1.6 million bottom line turnaround, so it was a $500,000 surplus. You see facility 2, this is a 1-year example, almost $1 million bottom line, turnaround and improvement. Facility 3 is $675,000 improvement. 4 and 5. 5 is my favorite example at a $2.4 million bottom line. But if you were to scrutinize each of these, and we won't get into too much detail just due to the brevity of time, you'll see what we've done is we've found ways to generate additional income. That's through some incremental revenue increase opportunities. What we did is we improved existing programs and then brought in new programming as well. We managed it efficiently in kind of the direct expenses, which is the cost of goods sold line item. And then the operating expenses, which are the fixed expenses, we were able to drive some efficiency there. And ultimately, that's how it adds up to this type of operating performance. Really the punchline to all of that is that we know how to operate sustainably, we know how to do it efficiently and effectively, and derive the best experience possible. And we have a lot of experience in partnering with communities, existing parks and rec, to make sure that we're collaborating well. It's one of our 4 core values is collaboration. The first core value, that's our second, the first is accountability. So when we say we're going to do something, we do it, we commit to it, and that's what this process demonstrates. So this is what we're proposing we go through with Starkville here. Is the first step is that we make sure we're very clear and understand perfectly what the definition of success is, what the vision, what the mission is for the complex, and what the margin, the financial reality needs to be for it. From there, we'll put a strategic plan together. It's a new park, so the assessment part is pretty easy. But really that's about building relationships with Parks and Rec and making sure that we partner well with them, with the programming that's happening already, and that we're able to usher that into the complex. And then we put the strategic plan in place, and that's the budget, right? That's the timeline that I was alluding to in terms of what do we do organizationally, marketing, sales, operationally, to come out of the ground properly. And then ultimately, you all approve that strategic plan. And once you approve that strategic plan, it's our responsibility to go execute on it and achieve the results in each of those areas, which you can see here. Each of those areas are subject matter expertise that our corporate team brings to the table. And then we'll evaluate the key performance indicators. How are we doing missionally? How are we doing marginally? And we track that together every single month so that we're achieving what we need to. So this is the way that the roles would work. So again, the city will define for us what the definition of success is, what the vision and the standards look like. We will then go put that strategic plan together in the form of a budget, down to the photocopy release, so that everybody can see where every dollar is being spent. We're very transparent in that way. Obviously, it's your assets, it's the city assets, and so we're very used to working with annual audits and all of the things that need to happen to make sure that transparency exists. And then once you approve that strategic plan, after asking however many questions you need to be comfortable with it, you have full control. Our job is to go provide the leadership, the process, and the tools and the systems to execute on that plan to the on-site team, of which we would hire and train and develop. And then ultimately, the city's role will be to review and monitor with us, communicate what's going well, communicate what's not, so that we can fix it and get it right. And then we'll celebrate, the success and those outcomes together that are aligned with the reasons that, the city's investing the $20 million here. This is the way that we're proposing the structure for Starkville looks like. We will identify an account executive. You've met him, it's John Sparks. Some of you have met him, John Sparks, who lives in Alabama. And he would be the account executive, so he's the quarterback, if we will, as we're exhausting our sports metaphors. He's the quarterback who will be handing the ball off to our subject matter expertise in our corporate group. So those blue boxes represent some of the corporate areas and departments that we have where we have leadership. And then the team on the ground, the on-site leadership, will report directly up to John. And then John will report directly up to the city. So the city will have, one throat to choke, if you will, one point of communication as it relates to important matters. Obviously, there's going to be a relationship with the on-site manager and the team here. They're going to be very involved in the community. Many of those hires will come from Starkville. So there will be existing relationships there that will be important. And that's what we're proposing in terms of the organizational structure.
Do y'all have do y'all have a training program for these folks?
We do.
Okay.
Yep, onboarding, development.
Yeah.
As part of the pre-opening plan, we know, so the opening day, let's just call it for lack of a better term for today, I might not have it right, April 1st of 2022. We know 1 month before opening who needs to be hired and how they need to be trained. 3 months before opening, some of those management level positions, and then 12 months, or 6 to 12 months, there are a couple of positions that need to be hired, so we're onboarding and training them right. I won't go into all the details here, but this is just some of the pre-opening leadership that you're going to get as we open up full. And these are some of the resources, the timeline that we'll track together. So, you'll all have access to exactly pre-opening what's happening every single week, what we've accomplished the previous week, what we have on the next month, 4 weeks, what's happening. And I personally find this incredibly helpful because when I wake up in the middle of the night, and I do, thinking about our projects and what's going on, I can email, in this case, John Sparks, our account executive, and say, hey, are we thinking about this marketing effort? Are we engaging with the city in this way or the community in that way? And he'll say, yep, check line 483. Or he'll say, hey, great idea, let me run that by the city and make sure that that's a good approach, and we'll add it into the timeline. So that's how we will manage that and kind of train. Jim, anything that you want to add to this?
I think we're good so far.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that can wrap it here. This is kind of a testimonial from one of our clients, but ultimately the punchline here is that when you work with us, we're committed to a lot of things. We'll be accountable. We'll collaborate well. We're going to bring the standard of excellence that will make the city proud, and ultimately we'll have a heart for service because on the polos or whatever the staff uniform, it's not going to be SFM. It's going to be the city of Starkville, and we recognize that we represent the city in that way. And when guests come in, for many of them, this complex is going to be how they experience the hospitality and the culture of the city. And we take that responsibility very seriously, and we will represent you all well should you give us the opportunity to serve. The second piece that this testimonial speaks to is that you have full control. You have control of how we spend money, you have control of the budget, you have control of everything that you need to there. Once you approve it, then we take the accountability to go execute on that. And that we can set up this structure with pure flexibility in whatever way we need to make sure that it works for you as a city.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate you being here. We've got what's on the agenda, and y'all will see it here, I guess, in a minute when we go through it, is an MOU that allows us to go forward with negotiations for a contract with these folks. And so we will go over that here later on. But for right now, I'll go around the wards here and see if anybody has any specific questions. Alderman Sistrunk, do you have any questions at this point?
No, I've asked a lot of questions all along, and y'all have been really good about reassuring us that customer experience, the local recreational experience is what we want for our city. The finances will work themselves out, but that's a key.
Okay. Alderman Little?
No, ma'am. Y'all covered everything earlier. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Alderman Walker?
No, again, I just appreciate the opportunity for y'all's interest in Starkville, and I think certainly the level of service and the experience is something that I think we got to work through the money piece of it and what that looks like. And I think more importantly, or as importantly, is the collaboration aspect between the Parks and Recreation Department. I think that's such a huge piece of this as we move forward, and how that looks like to make sure that, yes, we want Cornerstone and we want the Sportsplex, the main tournament events to be effective and run smoothly, but we also want to understand how does that impact the other recreation and parks and recreation opportunities in the city. And so that's what I would say. I would hope that over the next few weeks, if the MOU is approved, to make sure that we understand what that collaborative piece is going to look like, and make sure that we get those questions answered to everybody's satisfaction to see if this is really going to be a fit or not. But I certainly appreciate and I'm very interested in the big network that you had that could help us that could help this facility and the Sportsplex from day one begin to attract outside events. So I think that's encouraging.
Okay, thank you. And I do plan to probably next week, pick a day next week where we can take an afternoon and just sit down and hash it out with staff here and then with you guys. So we'll work that out timing wise. Alderman Beatty.
No, Mayor, thank you. Good presentation.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yes, ma'am, I got a few questions. I didn't get a chance to go through it with nobody else.
Well,
I go through mine.
they're gonna stay afterwards.
Since everybody aware, but I,
Yeah.
I don't know. The hiring process, do your hiring process make up the ratio of the city with minorities and African American minorities and but you said, you kept saying something, you're blessed. You're blessed. You said that quite a few times. That made me feel very sure, very comfortable when you said that. And then, letting us know that you're not doing that you trust in Almighty God for doing what you're doing. But the hiring process, that's what I'm really concerned about when you hire. Are you gonna look at both sides before you just pick your people all that qualify?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. So what we do in our hiring process, we want to hire the best people
Right.
that are going to represent the city and the project properly. So we do a national search, especially for that general manager candidate, and the majority of the time, at most recent, it's 80% of the time that general manager actually comes from outside the community. Because, and I would imagine this project is going to attract some really high performers. And so 80% of the time, that's what happens. Now 20% of the time, that very best hire is from within the community as well. And that could be the case here. Obviously, as a university town, there need some resources and great people here. For the rest of the management level team, and then even the line level folks below that, it's well, I'll say the management. 80% of the time, the management team underneath the general manager comes from inside the community in that way. And then almost 100% of the rest of the team members that serve the complex come from inside the community. And as it relates to minority hiring, and it's important for us that it's a core value that we represent all of the players and the guests that are going to be coming in here, and that's a great cross section of the players from around the region. And so we want to make sure that we're serving them well, and it's an important value for us.
Yes. And I think it's important to note that the city's involved in that process. So it's not us going out and finding a general manager and saying, hey, here's the GM. We go through that process together for all leadership, for general manager. They're all approved by the state. You can say, whoever wants to sit in on those interviews can sit in, to where we make sure we get the candidate that's not only the right best fit for the park, but also the best fit for the community, the city, because we expect not only our general manager, but also all of our leadership and all our employees to be pillars of the community. And so it's important that they fit into your vision of what the park looks like, as well as your vision of what the community wants to bring.
Appreciate it.
Anything else?
No,
They're going to be here afterwards, so that if there's any other things that come up, you can sit down and visit. And that was kind of the goal, was to have visitation opportunities before and after. So, okay. So thank you. Unless there's something else, I think that ends questions. And Alderman Little's going to depart. So thank you very much. Safe travels.
Thank you.
And we'll go to the agenda now, and so y'all can hang around with us if you want to, or not. So, all right, Mr. Latimer, you're up there. There you are.
Yes, ma'am.
All righty. We have,
Hey, everybody.
in looking at our agenda, folks, we are back to business. I think we can say that we are fully open and running again. So we have a couple of sets of minutes. Mr. Latimer, you've looked at those minutes. Any issues with those?
We've made the corrections and they've been implemented. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
all right. Any concerns about putting those on consent? Okay. We also have, we're going to be going into, Ms. Tamika Ryan wants to speak with us about summer youth programs. I have put her in touch with Mr. Ashford, who had to step out because he had an interview with somebody, but he has been talking to her, and she wants to come just I'm sorry?
I think she wanted to change it to the first, but I'll get with her, but I think she wanted to change it to the first,
Well, I just talked to her yesterday,
You did? Okay,
yeah, and
maybe
she
she-
said,
maybe she got something to
she
go
said she was good to go, so, but if she wants to withdraw, we can certainly make that change, but,
One of the employees who was coming with her was gonna be out of town, and she was trying to make sure both of them.
Okay.
But you talked to her yesterday, it was the early part of the week.
okay, well, I did, and she said that she was still good, so, in fact, she's supposed to drop some stuff off today to hand out with packets, so.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Absolutely. Then we've got the third of our 3 public hearings, amending the Unified Development Code and updating the technical codes and the building and fire code adoption. That should be information in your packet. We've now looked at it twice, and there are no changes. I think there were questions associated with and Steen is in here, questions associated with the storm requirements. And what we have settled on is to say that you are not required to create a storm shelter when you do it, but if you do create one, then it's got to meet the standards of a storm shelter. Is that correct, Steen? Yes. Okay. And aside from that, the issue with the individual, the level 3 issue, we've resolved that with them because the code will be what the code is for alcohol serving and fire escape and occupancy load, and they have agreed to keep it below 300, so I think everybody's satisfied on that. Would you agree, Steen? Okay, so that doesn't create an exception that we have to deal with, so everybody's agreed to go forward with it.
So I want to make sure I understand that.
Yeah.
So the owners of level 3 have agreed to make the occupancy level 3 less than 300
Yes.
threshold, so it doesn't trigger that part of the code?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and they were the only ones that it
Right.
applied to, so, yeah. And I've had a conversation with both Shaq and Andre, so. All right, so, and so that will be our third of 3 public hearings with consideration at that point in time. And then we have a public hearing on a special exception for the expansion of a non-conforming use on Mill Street. And is Mr. Haviland, there he is. Daniel, will you give just a quick explanation of that?
It's just an existing house that's in a B district, and they're just expanding to the rear and updating the house. This is real similar to a recent case on Caldwell Street, so it's just an expansion of a non.
Okay, all right, thank you. And so we'll have to have a public hearing on that one. Then under mayor's business, okay, so collection of taxes. We currently have a contract with the county that is a $50,000 a year for them collecting taxes with us. They have been talking for the last 2 years about going up rather dramatically on the cost. I am wanting to take it in-house, but at this point in time with Ms. Harden having to deal with an election and the timing of it, I've talked to their attorney, Rob Robertson, who's fortunately is also our representative, has been doing a great job. And he said if we could give them a bump for this year, then we can go through the process of taking it back in-house next year. And so this is an additional $10,000 for the tax collection for the city. And that's the reason for moving this forward, because they're talking about making it like 100,000 or 125,000 to do this. So that's the goal on this. And Chris had we took the contract that we currently have and drafted it and added $10,000 to it, basically.
That's right. That's the only change, Mayor. And just to put it on the record, though, it's a 1-year deal with a 9-month out. So the city will need to move quickly to trigger that 9-month out after the board approves the contract, if that's what the board wants to do.
Okay.
What is the start date of the contract? What is the start date, Chris?
Yeah, I don't have it. Let me just see. I do have it. I can look at that. Y'all keep going, and I'll give you what that start date
All right,
is.
thank
Let me
you.
pull it up.
All right. Anyway, the goal is to bring it back in-house for a number of reasons, but not solely because of money, but I think money is a big deal because they're starting to talk about as much as $120,000 to collect the taxes, and that's a couple of people. So, and the bank,
Alderman Sistrunk, it's October 1 of 2021.
Okay.
Start date.
And so the 9 months would be?
We would need to give notice after 3 months of that
Okay, so
in
December.
advance.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
so that gives us some time to work our way through that. But anyway, that's the thought process. So at the very least, this gives us 1 more year for us to go through that process. So, is that consent, Alderman? Thank you. Okay, and then we have our discussion and consideration of this 7th resolution. And so this is, we're bringing it back up. We're rapidly approaching the end of April and the graduation date for the students. And so it is back for us to determine how we want to handle that. And so we'll take that up, and that won't be a consent item. That'll be a discussion item. So anyway, that's there for that reason. Next item is consideration of the contract with Mr. Curtis for the development, creation, and installation of Cool Papa Bell sculpture to be located at Cornerstone. Last board meeting, we approved the selection of this gentleman. Now this is the contract. Chris, did you get a contract back from him?
I did. He accepted all of our suggestions and from our meeting the other day, so it is ready to roll with all the terms the city wanted in there.
Okay, all right, well, that probably is something just from a opportunity to take a look at it. We won't have that one on consent. That'll give us a chance to look at the numbers that go with that. But it is coming out of the park bonds. It's a key piece of our park. I think we have someone who is willing to be a sponsor for that. I'm not quite sure exactly how much of it he's willing to be a sponsor for, but he's been very forthcoming about wanting to do something as it relates to this, and so it'll be a matter of what those numbers look like and who we can get to sponsor. And I have every faith that we'll be able to get somebody to sponsor the entire amount in some way or another, either a collection of folks or one person. So. Consideration of the memorandum of understanding with sports facility management. These are the folks that we just heard from, and this is a memorandum of understanding to allow us to proceed with negotiations for the agreement. And Chris, you and their attorney have agreed on this, on the language associated with this?
That's right. And all this does is, like you said, Mayor, it just authorizes the parties to continue to negotiate to try to hammer out a contract by the next board meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Show a good faith effort to move forward with it. So, any issues with that?
I'm fine with it being on consent, but I would imagine that Alderman Carver and others may want to hear more about it. But.
Well, they're going to. I'm going to have y'all zoom in. You won't have to come back because you'll be coming back again. But we'll have y'all zoom in on that if that's acceptable. Right. That way we can answer questions. Okay. So we'll just plan for that. All right, and then. Okay, we have as I told you, this is going to be a robust meeting. Item E is Mr. Paul Alcantar. He has, Mr. Ashford and I spent about an hour talking with him. Nav had spent several different times talking with him for sanitation director. As much as we are going to miss Calvin, he's going to leave us within the next week or so, because April the 30th is rolling out around pretty quickly. And so this gentleman has a rather impressive resume. He's going to Zoom in for us on Tuesday night for us to be able to interview him and consider him for this position, and he is aware of it. He is actually the best of the potential applicants that we had, and the only one that really had experience that was sanitation related, to the extent that Calvin has so many different things that he does. This gentleman had done some of all of those at one point in time. So I think you'll be pleased to hear from him, but we'll be doing that via Zoom as well.
Mayor, where's this gentleman from? What's some of just brief background with that?
Well, if I had his resume in front of me, I would be able to be more thoughtful about it, but he's in Ohio right now, Columbus, Ohio right now. They have a budget of $28 million. He's been in Alaska. He's been in Florida. Yeah, so
we kind of put out a national search
yes.
to get this.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Sure did.
So y'all have interviewed him.
We have. We spent an hour. Nav interviewed him a number of times, and then I spent an hour on a Zoom call with him. And he was very impressive. Organizational skills, So,
Okay.
but I think y'all will be pleased to talk with him on the call. So looking forward to that.
Mayor,
Yes,
if it would be okay, because we know if we're going to have these folks in on the Zoom, if we would consider maybe moving item D to the anything that's not on consent, moving that up
To the front?
as much of the front of the agenda as possible.
Yeah, I have no problem with shifting any and all of that. That was kind of the reason I made sure it was under mayor's business. But what we'll do is when we get through this, Lisa, we will shift that stuff that involves people. We will make sure that the 7th resolution is down lower because that's gonna, spur some discussion, so let's make sure that we'll put these folks up at the top of the agenda, okay? Good point. All right, a final plat approval, this one, Masson DeVille, any issue, Daniel, any issues? Was this unanimous from,
It was unanimous from
P&Z?
Planning and Zoning Commission, and
Okay.
there's some bonding stuff that's being worked out with engineering, but that can be corrected before it's executed. So
Okay.
There's nothing holding it.
all right?
I think you skipped some.
Consent.
I was gonna say
you want-
that.
I'm sorry.
I think you
Did I skip
skipped
something?
board
Like a whole
business.
section.
Oh, I did, didn't I? Sorry, I don't know why I dropped down there. I apologize, my bad. The Freeport license by Webex. Chris, you were gonna dig into that? And
Yes,
determine-
ma'am. A warehouser can ask for that under Mississippi Code Section 273151. The theory being, if you're just housing goods to ship them, you can seek a waiver on being taxed from an ad valorem standpoint on those goods. And so that's what's going on here. I think they're tracking the state statute. I'm going to look at it further before Tuesday, but it looks to comply with the statute right now.
Okay, all right, and it's for Webex.
And this is a new license, a warehouse license, and just trying to peg where the impact to the city is.
It was a little over 1 million in new purchases of ad valorem.
Not in taxes, but in value.
Product, right.
Okay.
So you're gonna flesh that one out, Chris?
I am. I'm going to look at that more just to make sure that the particular warehousing they're doing fits under the statute. But they're traveling under the concept, but we just need to drill down factually to make sure that that concept fits for what they're trying to do.
Is this discretionary for us? Because there is some aspect of it that's not discretionary.
No, it's not discretionary if they're truly just housing goods for
Okay.
shipment.
Okay, all right, and you'll let us know. All right, we will leave that one off. The next item is Jessica Hill was the sole applicant for the County Public Library Board, so consent for that one? All righty. And then the reason I did that is because I'd kind of gone ahead in the game and put consent beside the airport grant, so that's the reason I jumped down. And this is a grant that we have already received or are about to receive, and they keep pinging us. I think Chris has got an email that keeps telling him to approve it, so.
Fine. That's right.
This is an opportunity for the airport to receive $27,000, so that should be worthy of consent, so. Then the mowing and maintenance bid for the Starkville cemeteries, I believe Mr. Hampton Young Corporation has been doing a good job, and he is the low bidder, but he was also the sole bidder, so, I think, Alderman Vaughn, they've been doing a pretty good job up there at the Oddfellows? Okay, all right, good. Consent for that. And then we got the final plat approval. Was that, since I had jumped deals, does anybody have any issue with that being on consent? Final plat for Forney subdivision? Okay, all right, we're good. The next one can't go on consent. That, I've got to recuse myself off of that one. And it may or may not get pulled. I'm trying to see about that. All right, engineering, where is, there he is, okay. Well, this one is easy. This is the low quote for testing services for West Point Road. Consent for that one, that's pretty pro forma. But Edward, if you would give a little verbal explanation on the standards of design and specification
You have a
policy.
copy of this in your packet. I know it'll be some enjoyable reading material for you. This is the, what we're calling the City of Starkville Standards of Design and Specifications. This is a document that really is to supplement the UDC. It provides a little bit more, really a lot more information to designers, developers, even our own in-house folks on the methodologies, the tables, engineering calculation methods to use for different types of infrastructure design. It's really more detailed than we thought was necessary to be included into the UDC. So we wanted it as a separate document, as a policy. In the very back of that, you'll also see we've started building a library of engineering details, and we will continue to update that with new details as they come on board. The idea that those details will be made publicly available, people will be able to input those directly into their plans. I think what that'll help us do is really help expedite the plan review process, because those things will be standardized and consistent, and then also help our engineering inspector when they're going out to do the oversight, specifically for the subdivision construction. Be happy to talk about this more if you'd like, but just to give you one quick example, the UDC obviously is the code. This would basically be guidance. So one example would be like the UDC may say or says, concrete curb and gutters are required on new streets. Well, this says what type of concrete, what strength of concrete, what the dimensions of those curb and gutters look like.
Does the UDC refer to that? when
Yes,
it- okay.
yes, the UDC refers to this quite often. And then what this document also does is it's not a full, I guess, full expounding on all the specifications. And there are situations where we didn't want to take too deep of the dive. What we refer to in this document is to the MDOT state aid specification. So in that same example of the concrete, this document will talk about what are the weather limitations on pouring concrete and kind of go into the construction means and methods of the best practices necessary to make sure we achieve a good finished product. So.
Okay, all right. Any questions of Mr. Kemp?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
not on that one, but
Okay.
circle back on
Sure.
community development, on B, on Forney
Forney, uh-huh.
Forney property. I'm glad to take something else, Mr. Kemp, they're not complying with our 100-year flood mitigation on that property. I'm just gonna make a statement on this. We have,
We need to take it off consent if you don't want to.
let's take it off.
Yeah, okay.
Just the
Yeah.
fact that we made
Sure.
some exceptions for this development. And there's 20.75 acres of what used to be trees and grass is absolutely 100% developed, or will be developed. There'll be some landscaping in there, but it's gonna be concrete now. And I still think, and it's worth discussion, it's worthy of bringing up that when you take that much land in the middle of town where the creek is down, it's going, they got retention, 25-year retention on site, but there's a drainage creek below that that's going to flow toward Academy Road and into the subdivision stuff down there. I think at some point in time, you cannot strip off that much land and develop that much without creating water problems down the creek for somebody else. And I think it's going to happen. And we've seen it in some other parts of town. And I just want to be noted that I'd asked in a previous meeting, when we were granting exceptions for these folks to move their porches around, that kind of stuff, would they consider, conforming to our 100-year flood mitigation stuff? And they said, thanks, but no, we don't want to do that, And but this is going, when this is developed, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, I'm not an engineer, stuff like that, but it just seems like that when you take areas that had trees and grass and stuff and clear it off with concrete and asphalt and buildings and stuff, that much, and with very little vegetation stuff left other than just little places where they're going to landscape and stuff, it's going to create some issues down. And I hate for us to let this one get away from us. And it happened, and then after the fact, we wondered why we didn't, when they were asking for exceptions to be able to move the buildings around, move them close to the street, that kind of stuff, that we didn't ask them or push them a little harder to do this 100-year flood thing.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, we'll definitely keep that off consent, all right. All right. We have the.
Engineering number 2, was it on consent or not?
Consent for engineering number 2? Is that okay? All right, say consent. It can always come off if someone wants to do that. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend. All right, under HR, we have authorization to hire Jared Womack as a maintenance worker. Start with utilities. Any issues? Consent for that. And then a transfer of Mr. Donnie Scales to the Starkville Sanitation Department from Street Department as an equipment operator. Consent for that. Authorization to hire Archie Stallings as an entry-level firefighter, and then part-time firefighters. So, good with that, Chief? Good? All right. Authorization to hire Sarah Burton and a number of other folks as part-time recreation aides, and then we're moving into the summer months, guys. Consent for that. And then Parks Ground Maintenance, consent for that. Maintenance worker for sanitation again, consent for that. And then these are the authorization to advertise for an HR person and assistant training coordinator, and then the advertisement for the permit services tech. Those came along with the change of Mr. Nav from the last board meeting. So consent for those? Those are advertising, okay. And then parks, we have the contract. I saw some email exchange between you and Chris this morning, so we are squared away with the contract for the Pyro show?
We're waiting on their final revised draft, Mayor.
Okay, so hold off on that, Chris? Were we how close were we?
They've told Brandon that they're going to get it in today.
Yes.
So we've got a verbal approval from them, but we're waiting on the clean draft back.
Okay, all right, consent for,
We can move it to tonight.
okay, all right, consent for that one. Updated change order for replacing, incorrect change order reflecting a correct beginning contract amount. I'm not sure what this is. Brandon, what exactly is this?
So the form that they submitted had an incorrect contract number on it, and so when we got through submitting it, we realized the contract number was higher than what it needed to be, so we have to just go back and correct that.
Oh, okay, all right, so it's sort of a technical.
It's an administrative mistake.
Yeah, okay, all right, consent for that. All right, under police, 2 officers to attend street drug conference in South Haven. Consent for that. Utilities, we have surplus, yay, consent for that one. Replacing whatever it is, and I'm gonna really enjoy reading this on Tuesday night. You see me reading it Tuesday night, right, Alderman Vaughn? And then proceeding with an emergency purchase. Terry, let's have a little verbal on the emergency purchase, please, sir.
Okay, we've got 3 pumps out at Crim Canyon Lift Station, and those are variable speed drives, frequency drives. That time to that we had some lightning storms that came through, and right now those pumps are not operational. We're doing bypass pumps, and there's a lead time in getting these parts, and that's what we're really trying to push forward to get them back in operation. And we're fine right now with the bypass. But if you run into a huge rain, flooding and stuff like that, that's when it becomes an emergency. We just really need to get it repaired.
Okay, and Chris, because it's an emergency, we're gonna have to put that on the minutes reflecting why that emergency, so this can't go on consent, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, and that takes us down to our executive session, which is personnel and a pending litigation, and Mr. Latimer, we'll be dealing with those at that point in time. So anything else from anybody else? Mr. Latimer, anything?
No, ma'am. The only thing I noticed missing was the call for the public hearings for the Everglade buildings.
We're gonna do that at the next one. I think we had to put together the notices and, well, no, wait a minute. Is that correct, Chief? The call for the.
I think,
The notifications went out, but the timeline, we weren't able to make them to get return notification in time for the deadline to submit.
But we can call for the do we have to have notice before we call for the public hearing, Chris?
no, I think Lisa was just looking for a staff report to put in the packet. Because again, we're just calling for the public hearing on those 3 buildings in Brooksville Gardens for the purposes of demolition.
Yeah, and this is because it's for the purposes of demolition, that Chris
That's
wanted
right.
to make sure that we were making everyone aware, because that's the goal, is to move forward with it in a fairly robust way, let's just say. So let's look at that before we finalize the agenda. Okay? All right.
Okay.
All right.
That was on me, Mayor, because straight up miscommunication between me and Lyle and
Okay.
Sarah and Lisa, and I take full responsibility.
All right, well, we can just, I mean, it's not hard to put it on there as a call for a public hearing.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, all right, sounds good. All right, anything else? All right, thank you, everyone. These gentlemen will be around for further discussion, and they've been kind enough to say they would stay, so that'd be great. All right, Matt, we will adjourn our work session. Thank you, everyone.